Welcome back, and today we are going to be taking a look at the P51 D10, which is on sale for 4,880 Golden Eagles, as well as the P47 M1 RE, which is on sale for 6,090 Golden Eagles. Should you buy these things? Yes and no. We'll take a look at it. But first, before we get started, if you use my discount code, you get a 3% off if you buy GE and then one of the vehicles. If you use the discount code for the pack, you don't get an extra 3% off, unfortunately. You will support me, of course, and you will get a free decal. If you don't have the decal yet, I will be updating the decal in November, which means that you won't be able to get it anymore. If you already have it, you will, of course, keep it. But if you don't have the decal yet, I'm not going to say be fast because it's going to be gone. It should be updated about the time when the next sales go live at mid, maybe end of November. So you have ample time, but it shouldn't be there anymore. Now let's take a look at these planes, because I said there is the 50% off pack where you don't get an extra discount, and I don't think that is worth it, because right now you have the P51 D10 and the P47M in a pack. They say 50% off, but in reality you are only buying one plane that is worth it. The P47M right now isn't all that fantastic. If you have watched my video in the past, as well as on the P47N, that is at 4.7, you know that the engine got a little bit of an update. The P47 engine now produces less power on the deck. It will maintain its power better, and it will have more power at altitude, but these fights don't really happen anymore. And if you watch my video on this thing, you know that the low altitude performance was the main issue. This plane is all about setting up, playing the long game, going to altitude, boom and zooming properly, don't get greedy, be very vigilant and just play it very strategically. At this BR, that is simply not the meta right now. Everyone is dogfighting on the deck, fights never really transgress above 5,000 meter. That's where your plane kind of starts kicking in. You have a limited web, and the funny thing is, off web, you actually have less power than the P47 D30 and the D28, which yes are a little bit heavier, but they are, I think, the better P47 to fly. So if you are looking for a P47 that you really want to fly, what I recommend you to do is either get the D28 at 5.0. You can also go to the Chinese tech tree, and then we have the P47 D30. If I can find it, it should be somewhere here. Here it is. It's also the 5.0 one. These two planes are identical, as well as the Italian one, which also has the D30. So if you are looking for a high altitude beast that is also somewhat capable at low altitude, I recommend you to fly out the D30 or the D28. The P47M is not a bad aircraft. It just doesn't fit in today's meta, and it will be a little bit frustrating. And it's also the more expensive option out of the two. And I think that the P51 D10 is simply the better plane. Now, if you want to fly this thing for the camo, you have the blue camo, of course, but we also have the balls out camo, which is the one I rock, because I think that the blue is a little bit obnoxious. Yeah, that's really it, if you are looking forward to that kind of thing. We also have, of course, the P47 M1 RE from, I don't know, I think it's the Polish tech tree, or the Polish flag, whatever. It's the identical one. So if you are flying this thing, or you already have it, there's no reason to buy this thing as well. So overall verdict, decent plane, strong in its own niche, but the niche just doesn't happen anymore, and I do think that this thing is not worth your money. Now, the P51 D10 on the other hand is pretty close to the D30, except the D30 is at 5.0. So you are just looking at the better version, at least, to play. Yes, the D30 is the better aircraft. However, this thing is just a much lower BR and therefore much more competitive. Yak trees, Pure Murskys are still going to be a pain in the dick, but I mean, when are they not? It doesn't really matter what you are playing at this BR, those two planes will absolutely terrorize you. So we are looking at a P51D model with a functioning engine. Now, if you are familiar with the D5 and the D20, you know that it's pretty fast, but it just doesn't have acceleration or climb rate, especially in a prolonged fight if you ever get force slow. Now, the main drawback of this plane is still going to be the low speed performance, but this plane is so much faster at 4.3 opposed to the D30 at 5.0 or the D5 and D20 at 4.0 that it's nowhere near as much of an issue. The other issue that does kind of happen is going to be more apparent though. The rudder that is for some reason crooked to the left, I can never unsee that. Is it? Is it not? It is, right? Am I blind? Yeah, that's crooked. it locks up quite badly, and it will kind of fuck you over when you're trying to aim. It's not a major issue, but it's something you need to be aware of. If you are a P51 enjoyer and you like the pure version of the P51, so not the P51A or the P51C, which are much more diverse in playstyle. If you like the high-speed P51 gameplay, so the D5, the D20, the D30, you are gonna like this thing. I think that this one is gonna be the best D model that you can get. Yes, it has some drawbacks, but they are very easy to play around, and I do think that this thing is very much worth the money. Now, you also have a different skin here. I don't think this fits at all, especially with the blue pajama at the back here. But you can't really go wrong with it. And yeah, that's really it. Now we can look at the ordnance as well. They do have some decent ground pound options. It's not fantastic, but you know, it is pretty damn good. Now what we can do is of course put HVARs on here as well as some bombs. Now here we can put on some bombs as well as some rockets. It's of course gonna be severely overweight, because of course this is never gonna be able to be stuck on. But these are the options that you have. If you want to run it for ground pounding, the P47 is going to be better for ground RB. But of course, that is not what most of you guys are going to be buying it for. So if you are looking for a ground pounder or suicide bomber, this thing is pretty okay. But I don't think it's worth the money. And I think that the P47 D30 can also be a fine ground pounder in that regard. And the performance difference isn't really that big. Keep also in mind that the P47M here has 2060 horsepower of web, and if we look at the D30 in a second, if I can find it, because there's just so many planes in this goddamn tech tree, you will see that it actually almost has about 300 horsepower more. And yes, it's slightly heavier, but this doesn't really offset it. If you run out of web in the P47M, you are completely boned. So what are you forced to do? You're kind of forced to climb without webbing at the start, which means that, well, you guessed it, you're gonna be even slower to altitude. It's gonna take you even longer to set up for the fight, which means that you are gonna be even less meta in general. So, what's the verdict? I would say only the D10 is worth your money. But before you buy it separately, keep in mind that you have to get 4880 GE, which means that you have to buy 5000 Golden Eagles, which will run you 32 bucks with the 3% discount. So now you spend 32 bucks for a singular rank 4 prop. I think this is overly expensive, especially when you know that on the sales in November and December that you will be able to pick up something like an XP50 for 800 Golden Eagles, which is absolute piss. That's like 6 bucks. And then on top of it, if you buy the pack, if you don't have either vehicle, it will run you 2750. You get an extra plane, as well as 30 days of premium time. Now the premium time will also net you 1900 Golden Eagles, which is like 11 or 12 bucks. It's a lot more appealing, but keep in mind that the P47M is not that great. So if you are looking for a grind plane, I don't think this pack is worth it. If you are an enthusiast, if you want to fly the P47 and the P51 D10, it's a pretty good deal. They're definitely somewhat unique. You can't really get them in other tech trees. You have to pay for them. If you are looking for these planes, it's a pretty good deal. But if you are simply looking for good grinders, I don't think that this pack is worth your money. That's of course my take. I can't look in your wallet. If you think it's worth your money, keep in mind that you are essentially only buying the P51 D10. At least that's my take on it. If you have a different view on it, be my guest, but I don't want to like sell you stuff that you don't actually need. And now the rudder is pointed in the other direction. I'm going absolutely apeshit. But yeah, hope it was helpful. Thank you all for watching, and you'll see me in the next one.